Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel, and today we're going to be looking at a very talked about product and one not very positively, and that is H.O.T by the 1914 and Alexander Marsh, the $50 edition. Okay, and before we roll the intro and get into this, I do want to preface a few things. One, this will not consider all of the problems the product had before because I have not owned it. I do not know the size of the coins. I do not know how bad the coins were made. I cannot comment on that. So this will be purely based on the version that I got, the routines that I got, the instructional video that I got, okay? So this is not going to be me using everything that happened in the past to justify your choice of this or not justify your choice of this. I will be reviewing this as fairly as ever, and as always, I've bought this with my own money. This wasn't sent to me. So if this is good, I will tell you that I like it. If it is not, I will tell you that I don't like it. I'm affiliated with this in no way. So I just wanted to get this out of the way before the review, just so you know that this won't be a comparison of the versions or anything like that. It's going to be my honest review of the actual product itself that I have received, which is the updated version with new instructions as well and new coins. So having said that, let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Perfect, so you decide to stick around, which means you want to learn more about H.O.T. So what is H.O.T? H.O.T is essentially a three-phase heads or tails routine that increasingly gets more impressive as the routine goes on. So I think the best way for me to explain this is to do you a quick performance. Now again, I know people always want live performances, and I do my best performing to ghosts because I don't have spectators with me or anything like that. So I always perform to like no one, so it's a bit hard to do the routines, but I will do an effort and perform this to you because I do actually really like this, and I think that's important for you to get an idea of how this would play out. So you would go out to a spectator, whether it's on stage or close-up, and you would tell them that you're going to play games of heads or tails if they're familiar with that. They will say yes, but you actually tell them this game is a bit different because it doesn't use your traditional coin, it uses a decision coin. Have you actually ever seen or heard of those? They're probably going to say no. So you say, okay, so the way a decision coin works is on one side, as you can see, there's a heart with no on it and a minus. So as you can guess, that would be a coin that essentially depicts that you're not going to do certain things if you flip on it. And the other side has yes, a head, and a plus. So that would mean that that's the side of the coin that essentially would be a positive outcome for you to choose. So then you ask your spectator if they can flick the coin as if it were a heads and tails game. So they're going to do exactly that. They're going to flick it and do this. And you tell them not to look at what they chose. So then you proceed to tell them, I want you to tell me heads. They say it, then heart, then heads, and then heart. And they say, perfect. Now peek at the coin, look at what it is. And you tell them heads, say again, heads, hearts, heads, hearts. Again, you do it with more rigor than that. And they say, perfect. So from the way that you spoke this and from your body language, when you were saying heads, you were actually trying to divert your gaze from me. But when we were saying hearts, you were looking straight into my eyes, which means that you were trying to hide that this is actually a heads. So you are on heads. And of course, that would be it. So you can show it. You would go up and you could show it or anything like that. If you have an audience, you could show that it's heads. Then you proceed to give it to the spectator again. And you tell them this time you're going to do the same thing. So you're just going to flick it up. But this time, I don't want you to look. I want you to intuit what you think it is. So do you think it's heads or do you think it's hearts? But don't say it out loud. Just think it. You have it? Perfect. Now take a peek and tell me if you're right. Let's say in this case I'm right, and I would say, yes, I'm correct. So as a mentalist, you say, perfect. So because you're correct, that tells me everything I need to know about you. It tells me that you're someone that often follows their heart more than their head, even though sometimes it's more difficult to trust your heart and not, have the conscious decision made to you by your head. You will still trust your heart over your head, which means that you've probably thought that the coin is going to land on heart, and you were correct, which means that it did land on heart. Is it true? Then they would reveal and you would show that indeed it landed on heart. Saying to them, look, we're going to play this one last time, but this time we're going to play it with an invisible coin. So look, I'm going to give you here a coin in your hand. I want you to flick it and hide it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to write something here. So before you actually look, you would write something on your pad and you say, perfect. I've committed myself to my prediction right here. Take a peek and look at what it is. And let's say they say heads. So say, perfect. So now keep in mind, I've committed myself to my prediction before we even started. The coin is invisible, there's no way for me to know. But somehow, as you can see, you show this to your spectator, it says you will pick heads, and then you show it to the audience, and it says you will pick heads, okay? So that is a performance of H.O.T by Alexander Marsh to Ghosts, okay? So I hope that gave you some idea of how this works and everything regarding that. I do hope it was helpful in making you realize that this is not as bad as some people say it could be or is. So now that I've got that out of the way, let's talk about where you buy this, how much does it cost, and what do you get. So you can buy this directly from the 1914 or from other publishers. Now, keep in mind that if you buy directly from the 1914, you're gonna have an easier way if ever you wanna get new coins or buy refill coins, because apparently they do have replacement coins. It's going to be much easier to deal through the 1914 than it would be through Murphy's or through your magic shop, etc. It's going to be much easier. So I would recommend it getting this from the 1914, but I would be lying to say if I got it from there, because I personally got mine from ALAKAZAM Magic. But this will set you back 40 USD, and what you get with your purchase is this. So you're going to get your little box. Inside of this box, you're going to get an instructional link to your video, which is separated in 3 sections. It has a main section, which is the main routine, how to handle it, the psychology of it, the sleights of it, you know, justifying the sleights, making everything well, and the main routine. Then there's a second section, which essentially goes over some additional ideas, you know, how to empower your spectator, how to use this without making it feel odd, how to do some other routines like a bank night or a lie detector routine. And then there's an additional video which goes over issues that you may have with the coins, how to clean your coins, how to maintain your coins, and some additional handling tips and whatnot that you may need with Alexander Marsh, okay? Then you're also gonna get your coins. I don't think it's really a spoiler to tell you that you are getting 3 of them. These are the, you're getting 2 gimmick coins and 1 ungimmick coin. I don't think that is saying too much. I think everyone is expected for that. But this is the size of the $50, okay? And I must say that this is very small. Even the $50 one is small, so I cannot even imagine how small the other coins were. Like, it's crazy to me that there was actually coins smaller than this. But if you actually compare it with the $50, which I got here, it is the exact same size. So as you can see, it is the exact same size as a $50, right? But it is much thicker, and I think the thickness makes it seem a bit smaller, whether, you know, the lankier, thinner one. But as you can see, I'll do it again. You can see they are the exact same size, so it's not, you know, fake advertising or anything. They are truly $50 size, even though they do feel and look a bit small. They are what it should. And the designs, I know there was problems with the designs, but I think they've cleared them up. It is pretty easy, at least to me, to see that that is a head with yes, no, with the yes plus, and that is a heart with no minus. I think the designs are pretty clear. Again, I can't talk about how the designs look on the other coins, but on these they do look pretty clear. And also the coins do handle very well. I think the fact they are a bit thicker, they do help for some of the moves that you're gonna do and some of the routining aspects of it. I do think it helps that they are a bit thinner, a bit thicker, I mean, and yeah, I mean, that's the coins that you get. You're gonna get 3 of them in order to achieve the routine. So now let's talk about difficulty. So how difficult is this routine to perform? It is relatively easy to perform. I mean, there are some coin sleights, but they are bare bone coin sleights. I'm not a coin guy, as you all know. I barely perform any coin magic, but the sleights are very easy. I basically didn't even have to practice most of them. I know here on camera, they may look a bit weird because the angles and whatever, but in real life performances, I've already performed this live, and I'm actually gonna have a show on Saturday when I'm actually gonna try this on a stage show to perform this. So yes, I do think the sleights are very easy to do, very inconspicuous, and also because I'm not performing it as I would on stage, at one point on stage when I say, look, for the last phase, when I take the coin and say, look, we're gonna do it one last time, but this time we won't even need the coin, but we are gonna still use the heart and the head, right? So I would do a switch to have the examinable coin left on the table for the stage show. If ever the spectator wants to pick it up, it would be examinable. I didn't do it for the performance, but even then, it's pretty much self-working. The sleights are relatively easy. I mean, if you can just do a classic palm and the classic BOGO switches and things like that, very easy, very not complicated. And also the sleights happen on kind of the offbeat and they're kind of motivated throughout the routine. They're not that difficult to perform, okay? So difficulty-wise, pretty easy. Now let's talk about practicality. So what is the practicality of this? In order to perform this routine, you're either going to need 2 or 3 coins. If you want it to be examinable, you're going to need 3. If you don't want to be examinable and you just do this on stage and your props are never going to be touched, you can do it with just 2 of the coins. So practicality wise, you just carry around your little coins and that's it. And a prediction for the end, depending how you want to do the ending. I love the idea of doing it with an invisible coin. I think it adds to it. You're going to need a pad such as this and a Sharpie, or if you want, he does give you some alternative ideas for you to have a prediction in your top pocket or a prediction on your cell phone or anything like that. He gives you ideas of how to do the prediction at the end. I think a lot of people know what the prediction at the end is, since it's a head or heart. I think it's pretty easy to know how it operates, but even then, it is pretty straightforward. I personally really like the pad version because you are seen to write something from the start and it's held in full view. I personally like that a bit more, but I think having a prediction or anything like that from the start isn't much of an issue either, okay? So practicality wise, it is pretty good in carrying capacity. In terms of repeatability, this can be repeated as many times as you want. There's no problem with that. In terms of inspectability, it is both not and is inspectable. On stage, it is fully inspectable because technically it's never going to be inspected on stage. But if you're doing this for close-up scenarios, it can be inspected at the end, but it cannot be inspected during. But due to the routining, it does seem very fair, but you do still have to do some audience management in order to make sure that everything flows as it should flow and that everything plays out as it should play out. In terms of reset, the reset of this routine is basically instant. In terms of table, you do not need a table space for this. You can do it standing up. And in terms of angles, they are pretty much 180 angles. You could maybe do it to a 270 angle or maybe even 360 in certain occasions, but I think the 180 angle is best for you to be carefree and just go over the routine however you want. Now, where would you perform H.O.T? So I think H.O.T is definitely something that excels for stage parlor type environments. I think that is where it plays best. I think that is where it's going to get the best impact, and that's where the motivations for the effect are best. Because yes, there are some switches, and if you have an audience, asking someone to lift their hand and taking it to say, look, it is heads, correct, and you show it to the people in front, and then you proceed to do your move, is much more justified than when you do it and get one-on-one on the street, taking it to someone and say, look, perfect, and that is heads, correct? That was a free choice. I think justifying it is much more easy on stage, that you're picking it up to show to people. But if you're doing this to like a table in a walk-around scenario, I do think it is still justified to take it up and say, look, he did select heads, as you can see, and then you proceed to do the rest of the routine. But there is some justifying you have to do there. So still, this can be performed casual, walk around, table hopping, cocktail, anything like that, or even stage parlor. But I think on stage parlor, it has the biggest impact and it plays very well, especially with the prediction on the pad, etc. So now that I've said all of that, let's get over the positives and negatives. So what are the negatives of H.O.T? Well, one of the negatives of H.O.T is that yes, there are some routining aspects that for some people will never fly. So for some people, I do know that taking the coin from the spectator's hand like this to show it or justify it or handle it defeats the entire purpose of it and makes the routine unworkable. I understand it. To me, it's not an issue because I do plan on using this more on stage than close up. But I do understand for some people that gripe and why they don't like it. It is fully understandable. Second of all, I do think that the coins are going to get, if you use them a lot, they could get dirty easily. So I don't know how easy it's going to be to clean. He does tell you ways of how to clean it, but I haven't tested it out since they're pretty brand new in my case. So I can't really vouch for that, but that could be an issue moving forward. But now let's talk about the positives. One, the $50 coins are well produced. The images are good, even though they do feel small compared to a normal $50. They are $50 size. The main routine is very good. I do like it. The bonus routines I don't particularly like, so I'm not going to do them at all. But I do think the main routine is strong. I do think the main routine is good, and I am going to actually use it. I do think it's relatively practical, and it's a relatively fun routine to do, I think, because of the escalating nature of it. So now that I've said all of this, would I recommend H.O.T and would do I give it out of 10? Personally, I would only recommend H.O.T for the $half version because as I said, I do feel that even though these are $half, they do still feel a bit small. I can't even imagine how the originals were. Like, what size were actually the originals for them to be so small you could barely even tell there's a head and a heart on it. I can't even wrap my head around it. But again, as I said, this is not a comparison or a review comparing the two. But yeah, I do think that if you like the routine, to do it on stage, I do recommend it. If it's something for close up, I think there are better options out there, and there are better options for you to consider, you know, things like Flip by Wesisali. Yes, it's not the spectator flipping the coin, but still it just feels very fair. So there are better routines that if you want to do for both stage and parlor, but it thoroughly depends on what you think is justified or not. Personally, I like this and I would recommend it to certain types of performers, but I do understand that this is not for you almost at all. But I personally enjoy it. I have already performed and I'm gonna perform it in my show on Saturday. So maybe I'll keep you posted of how the reactions go. But personally, I do like this. I'm gonna use this. It's not the best coin toss out there, but I am giving it an 8.25 on 10 because I still really much enjoy it. And especially performing it, I think it is pretty clever in my opinion. So having said all that, thank you all for watching and I'll see you on my next review. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If not, have a great one and bye-bye.